that you are well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today we'll be doing our grade 8 English lesson on context clues. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. All right. So this is our list, our chapter grade 8, right? So we are on aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of English Language Arts, grade 8, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of context clues. And in our previous lesson, we did context clues, right? And now we are going to continue with the rest of the lessons on context clues. All right. So our chapter is context clues. Our subject is English Language Arts, grade 8. And the lessons that we're going to be focusing on under the chapter of context clues is finding words using context clues and to use context clues or context to identify the meaning of the word. All right. So when it comes to context clues, right? If you don't know the meaning of a word, right? This is now context clues. If you don't know meaning of a word, then you can look for context clues, right? And context clues are nearby words and phrases that help you to figure out the meaning of an unknown word. So remember, we said that if you don't know the meaning of a word, then you can look for context clues, right? And context clues are nearby words and phrases that help you to figure out the meanings of a word, which means that it will maybe be a word that means, that is kind of similar to the other meaning of the word, just so that you can get at least the meaning of that specific word. And if we look at examples, right? It says Maureen asked for expedited service for her passport so that she'd have it in time for her trip. All right. And if we look at an example, right, of context clues where we said that if you don't know the meaning maybe of one word, then you may use a word that is either nearby or a phrase that is as close, right, as to that word as possible to figure out the meaning of an unknown word. We said Maureen asked for expedited service for her passport so that she'd have it in time for her trip, right? Or you can guess that expedited means for it to either be hurried or to be sped up, right? And the reason why we get that kind of idea is because it says so that she can be in time for her trip. So it's like they say, expedited then probably means to hurry up or to speed up because you would want it on time. Then at the city council meeting, all right. So another one, it says, at the city council meeting, Mr. Harrington lambasted the mayor for refusing to address the city's traffic problem. So at the city council meeting, Mr. Harrington lambasted the mayor for refusing to address the city's traffic problem. And if we look at the word lambasted, right, then it means that criticized or verbally attacked, right? It's like having a mini dispute verbally over certain issues. So lambasted means criticized or verbally attacked. Expedited means to hurry up or speed up. And then the last one says nobody understood why Corey decided to move to France. His decision to go there seemed completely arbitrary. And arbitrary means random. All right. So when it comes to context clues, right? Knowing the meaning of certain words, right, will help a lot. And we need to just look at another sentence or another word that will give us the meaning of a certain word when we do not understand, they say, the meaning within that context, within that sentence, right? So by the looks of it, context clues, it's almost like synonyms, right? It's like where the word is either the same or almost the same, right? All right. So now we're going to aplusstudents.ca, where we are going to be doing our tutorial. And we're going to find words using the context. So we're finding words using context. And we said, if you don't know the meaning of a word, you can look for context clues. Context clues are nearby words and phrases that find out the meaning of any unknown word. All right. And remember, we said that there's certain words within certain sentences that are very big, right? That we might not understand. But then if we go to another sentence, right, then the other sentence will kind of give us a brief idea of what that context clues means, right? All right. And we made examples already of Maureen and that asked for expedited services, which means that it's either to hurry or speed up services because she wants to go on a holiday. So now we're going to our activity. We need to select the word that means gave a false idea of. All right, so Edith Piaf was a French singer born in 1915 who influenced many other singers, including Frank Sinatra. She stood just under 5 feet tall, but her tiny size belied the size of her voice. She sang huge, booming songs and is especially remembered for her recording of a song Non je ne regrette rien, which is French for no, I regret nothing. All right. So which means that, yeah, they're saying select the word that gave a false idea of. Idea of. Edith Piaf was a French singer born in 1915 who influenced many other singers, including Frank Sinatra. She stood just under 5 feet tall, but a tiny size belied the size of her voice. She sang huge, booming songs and is especially remembered for her record or recording title. which is French. French, I regret nothing. And if we need to give a word that means maybe false idea of, then we would go with bellied. Then we will go with the word bellied, right? Because it says she stood just under 5 foot tall, but her tiny size bellied the size of her voice. We need to select the word that means an irresistible force. An irresistible force. In August 1965, the English band called the Beatles was a popular culture Huguenot, right? With four number one albums and in ever increasing popularity, the band was on a roll. Beatlemania prevails as the Beatles' 2 weeks American summer tour broke records, selling out every concert except one. All right. So we are going to now go to our test where we're also going to find words using context. Sometimes context clues can be a bit tricky, especially for the big words that is being used, right? But it is words that are almost the same as that specific word, just in a more simpler way, right? So we said Edith Piaf was a French singer born in 1915 who influenced many other singers, including Frank Sinatra. She stood just under 5 feet tall, but her tiny size bellied the side of her voice. She sang huge, booming songs and especially remembered for her record song titled French I Regret Nothing. No, I regret nothing. All right, and we were gonna find the word that means false idea of, then it would be lead. All right, so we said Mary Cassatt was a 19th century American painter and printmaker. She lived in France and was a member of the Impressionist group of artists there. Cassette's subjects, unlike the street scenes and crowds painted by many impressionists, were primarily mothers and children in quiet moments of response. All right. And if we were to look at the specific word, right, that means state of resting. And state of resting doesn't mean to repossess, repose, or repossesses. Is it the first option, the second option, or the third option? The word that means state of resting, repossesses, repose, reposes. All right, so the state of resting, we can say it's repose. All right, and repose is correct. In August 1965, the English band called the Beatles was a popular culture Jägernaut with four number one albums and ever increasing popularity. The band was on a roll. Beatlemania prevailed as the Beatles just 2 weeks in America. In America, a 2 week American summer tour broke records, selling out every big concert except one. We need to select the word that means irresistible force. All right, and if we choose the correct one, we can say the Yeye note. I'm not even sure if I'm saying the word correct. Yeye note. All right, so we need to select the word that means the basic framework or systems of public works. Civil engineers design infrastructure products such as roads, dams, tunnels, and bridges, right? This is not a new field. The builders of the ancient pyramids also use engineering concepts. However, the tools available to civil engineers today, such as computer aided design, CAD programs, have improved the speed and accuracy of the work. All right, and if we it says civil engineers design infrastructure projects, we need to select the word that means basic framework of or systems of public works. That is also to do with infrastructure, that is to do with project, that is to do with the work that they are doing. So we can say it is structure, infrastructure. All right. American runner Anne Garrett didn't take up running until age 72. At 80, she set a national record for a half marathon in her age group. She defies the stereotype that older people don't exercise, although she urges kids to run too. All right, so here we're going to select the word that means a fixed idea about a group that may be unfair or untrue, right? And if we are going to select that specific word from the text that means it is either unfair or untrue, then we can say it is stereotypes, right? Stereotype. Until today, we still have there's still lots of stereotypes about different things, older people, boys, girls, literally, we still have those, right? All right, so we're going to use context to identify a word. Context to identify a word. All right, so we're going to use the context to identify the meaning of a word. Remember, we said context clues, right? Or when we have either a sentence or paragraph, and then there are going to be words within that sentence, right? Or paragraph that we may not maybe know, understand, but then context clues is where they will give us maybe like a few more words, and then we can then try to figure out either it's almost like it will be a word that is similar to the word that was given, and that will make it more easier to understand the word, to understand what you're reading or writing. Invented in 1448, Johann Gutenberg's printing press is often credited with being the first press in Europe with movable type. The press used small blocks carved with individual letters of the alphabet. Gutenberg could arrange and rearrange these blocks into almost infinite combinations to make any word, sentences, or passage that was desired. Once a page was printed, the same block could be could be reconfigured to create a new page. All right, so if we were to find the meaning of the specific word, right, and here they say we must read the passage. What is the meaning of the word dissemination as used in the passage? Dissemination. And dissemination is used within the text. It says Gutenberg's printing press would which allowed for dissemination of printed materials help lead to widespread changes in the European society, right? So dissemination, does it mean dominance, dismissal, spread, or enjoyment? All right, so dissemination, right? Using the passage, it says it is allowed for dissemination of printing materials, helped lead to widespread changes in the European society. So we need to choose, is it is dominance, is it dismissal, is it spread, or is it enjoyment? And dissemination, right, which is used within the text, right, to move the printed materials, we can say it is spread. So spread is that word, right? Because it is spreading something. It's like spreading information, right? That is what they actually mean. So it's like spreading information wildly, like they specifically means European society, probably all over the world. All right. Okay, we're looking at the next one. It says construction on Florence's Grand Cathedral began in 1296. So it began in 1296. Over 100 years later, however, the structure remained unfinished with an enormous hole in the roof. The designers had intended to top the cathedral with the world's largest dome, but this plan was stymied by architectural limitations. The main factor stalling progress was the fact that no one knew how to create such a massive cupola without large, cumbersome support system. In 1418, tired of the gaping hole above the altar, Florentine priests solicited the general public for solutions to the dome problem. A number of leading architects submitted ideas, but the chosen design came from a goldsmith named Filippo Brunelleschi. He suggested building not one but two domes bound together with rings of metal to counteract outward pressure. The now famous dome was ultimately completed in 1436. Today, it remained one of the most impressive structures in the world. So, we need to say what is the meaning of cupola as used in the passage. All right, and if we look at the word cupola, right, then we need to say is cupola decoration, is cupola the dome itself, is cupola cathedral, or if it is the roof. A cupola. All right, and if we were to choose the correct one, then we can say a cupola is like a round type of figure, which is like a dome. It's like a dome that is more rounded formed, right? The roof or the ceiling that is more round. That is what it is. So a dome is the word cupola. So another word for cupola is a dome. All right, now we're going to our test. All right, so we're going to use the context to identify by the meaning of the word, right? It says read the passage and then answer the question. At high latitudes, one might look into the night sky and see dazzling curtains of colorful light. The brilliant sight, known as an aurora, is the result of solar winds. Solar winds occur when the outer layers of the sun boil off due to the intense heat, emitting streams of magnetically charged particles into surrounding space. Some of these solar wind particles end up traveling in Earth's direction. If unimpeded, these particles would have dele- 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 deleterious effects on human health, increasing the risk of heart failure and other health risks. But Earth's magnetic poles, located near the geographic north and south poles, create a magnetic field that protects the planet from the solar wind particles. Some of these particles, however, do manage to break free and end up colliding with oxygen and nitrogen in Earth's atmosphere. The collision release energy, thus creating the aurora's stunning display. We now need to say what is the meaning of emitting. So we need to say what's the meaning of emitting in the passage. Is it surrounding or is it to give off? Emitting. All right. And if we were to decide which one it is, I think it is give off. Oh, all right. Emitting is to give off. So emitting means to give off. And then here it is. Now we need to read and answer the questions. I think it's basically the same word. It's the same text. Now it says, what is the meaning of deleterious as used in the passage? Deleterious. Does it mean unpredictable? Does it mean unnoticeable, harmful, contagious? Does it mean unpredictable, unnoticeable, harmful, contagious? Deleterious or deleterious, deleterious or deleterious. So we need to say what it means: unpredictable, unnoticeable, harmful, contagious. Because it says if unimpeded, these particles would have deleterious effects on human health. So we maybe it has harmful effects on human health. And harmful is correct. So it might have harmful effects on human rights, right? On the human lives. All right, so construction on Florence's Grand Cathedral began in 1296. Over 100 years later, however, the structure remained unfinished with an enormous hole in the roof. The designers had intended to top the cathedral with the world's largest dome, but this plan was stymied by architectural limitations. The main factor stalling progress was the fact that no one knew how to create such a massive cupola without a large cumbersome support system. In 1418, tired of the gaping hole above the altar, Florentine priests solicited the general public for solutions to the dome problem. A number of leading architects submitted ideas, but the chosen design came from a goldsmith named Filippo. He suggested building but not one, but two domes, bound together with rings remains one impressive structure of the famous structures in the world. Oh, with metal to counteract outward pressure. The now famous dome was ultimately completed in 1436. Today, it remains one of the most impressive structures in the world. All right, and if we were to say what the meaning of cupola is, right? Remember, we said the word cupola means dome. It's like something like a roundish roof type of structure, right? All right, so this is now the end of our lesson on context clues. We said context clues are words that are similar or almost the same as words that is within the text, right? It's like finding a word that kind of means the same in order to understand what the meaning is of that sentence, right? Or of that word, not the sentence, the word. All right, so that is the end of our lesson, grade 8. Thank you very much for joining the class. I really hope you're going to have a good evening further. Goodbye.